difficult to predict what's going to go on in 5 years. I really do. I just think there's so much, the rate of innovation is so quick that to figure that out is incredibly difficult. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think journalism has to figure out how to cater to a couple trends that are going on. So I'm a big believer, actually, that journalists are superbly important going forward, because as the data becomes more and more voluminous, as there's more information coming in your life, you need navigators, you need people to help navigate. And the role of a good editor and a good journalist was always to navigate your world for you. And that's why the 9 o'clock news came and the 6 o'clock news came. So I think that becomes even more important. The question is what that navigation looks like. And is it in the form of a newspaper? I don't think so. I think print as we know it is going to change. Is it the form of a curated digital experience? I think it's going to be more multiple curated digital experiences where, the average news consumer probably would look at, call it 10 years ago, they might look at 1 or 2 stories. Now you'll see the average news reader will read a subject and a story from anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 different sources. So they're trying to triangulate that truth and get a better picture of the totality of the circumstance. So I think that is going to change. So I'm a huge believer that we are entering a golden age of journalism. The model people... Golden age. Yeah, because I think navigators are so important. When there's that much going on and there's so much information coming from different political viewpoints, different news sources, different parts of the world, journalists are, in my view, the art of navigating. They're the art of navigating truth and identity. And so that becomes really damn important in an era where the volume of the data has just multiplied by a factor of 1,000. So what it looks like for now, I think, is you're going to have behaviorally news. I'm talking about news, by the way, like breaking news, not editorial and that kind of stuff. I think people are going to look at multiple sources. I think that there's going to be a real challenge for news organizations to take people from breaking news and get them to drill down into, because breaking news was always a lost leader, right? So you'd have the breaking news of the day on the paper, and then people would go into the areas of the paper that actually made money, the sports section and the travel section and the classifieds. So I think that's the challenge, is people still want the breaking news, but how do you divert them back into other forms of curated content that keep them around longer? And I think it's a very difficult challenge. But I do think the desire doesn't go away. Because if you look at breaking news, the vast majority of breaking news is going to come from you and I, just because we're there. Yeah. So when a shooting happens, God forbid, or somebody does something nice, or Dennis Rodman goes to North Korea and somebody sees him, or when it's not public, it's going to be a combination of the army of eyes and ears that exist on the ground already, which is journalists traditionally saw their job as breaking news. Because you remember in the old days, it'd be like, we broke that story first, and CNN would say, I broke that 10 minutes before NBC broke it. I don't think anyone cares anymore. I think it's going to be what's going to matter is whoever becomes the best navigator that on a regular basis you go back to, because they're the best navigator, they explain the circumstances the best. I think that's just not as valuable anymore as the analysis and the navigation around the stories. I really don't.